This is the story of a man from Africa who came to Japan and fought to survive during the brutal Sengoku era. As they sailed toward Japan, the missionaries and Yasuke's ship were struck by a fierce storm. Among sailors, the East China Sea west of Japan was known as the Devil's Sea. Typhoons have been occurring frequently. The raging waves snapped the ship's mast, leaving it without the power to sail and plunging them into the depths of despair. After the storm, the ship, stripped of its sails, drifted aimlessly for days. Amid their despair, the missionary Valinano and Isaac found time to talk about many things. Finally, they caught sight of an island on the horizon and safely reached the shores of Japan. Overwhelmed with relief, they joined hands and offered their thanks to God. After arriving in Japan, the missionaries and Isaac boarded another ship and set sail for the nation's central port. The port was called Sakai. It was Japan's largest international trading port and one of the few ports in the country to enjoy a remarkable degree of self-governance. After a grueling 6-month voyage from Goa, the missionaries Valignano and Yasuke finally arrived in the heart of Japan, each driven by his own purpose. After landing, Valignano, Yasuke, and their companions made their way through the streets of Sakai, heading toward the castle where Japan's ruler resided. That powerful ruler was Oda Nobunaga. Across the land, wars raged on every front as he fought to unite all of Japan under his rule. Oda Nobunaga showed no mercy to his enemies or to those who betrayed him, often ordering the complete destruction of their entire families and clans. Because of this ruthless reputation, he came to be feared throughout the land and was known as the Demon King. The missionary and Isaac traveled along the road, passing through a castle town that had been devastated by Oda's army. There were countless people hanging from the trees. A nameless terror washed over them. Meanwhile, Oda's castle town was bustling with life, as Nobunaga had introduced a groundbreaking policy of exempting merchants from commercial taxes, attracting people from all over, and creating a thriving marketplace. Missionary Valignano saw Nobunaga as a powerful ruler who was cold-blooded yet highly pragmatic. He pondered how he could win Nobunaga's permission to spread Christianity in Japan. A single misstep could mean death. Yet the meeting was unavoidable. Valignano sought an audience with Nobunaga. Valignano and his companions then presented themselves before Nobunaga, bearing gifts. Nobunaga listened to Valignano's greeting without changing his expression, but the round sphere caught his attention. Through the interpreter, he asked, "What is that round object?" Valignano: "Yes. This round object is called a globe. Our world is round like this. If we sail east on our ships, we can eventually return from the west." One of the generals laughed mockingly and said, "If the world were really that round, we'd all slide right off it." Watching the samurai, Nobunaga suddenly sprang to his feet and shouted, "Silence! Hold your tongue! Don't speak on matters beyond your understanding." Nobunaga stepped forward, took the globe from before the missionary, and studied it intently. After a long silence, he murmured, "This makes sense." He then looked at Valignano and said, "This is most intriguing. Tell me, Valignano, I've heard you've brought an intriguing fellow with you." Valignano scratched his head and muttered, "I am told there is a black man who speaks our tongue. Bring him before me," Nobunaga commanded. Startled, Valignano replied, "I'll send for him immediately." Yasuke was escorted to the garden of a secluded residence. Waiting for him were Valignano and Nobunaga. Nobunaga asked Isaac, "Why do you know our language?" "I learned it from an old Japanese man in Goa," Isaac replied. "He was a fellow slave. He told me he had once been a samurai, but after losing in battle, he was sold into slavery. When he died in an accident, I came to Japan to bury his bones." Hearing this, Nobunaga cast a brief glance at Valignano and said, "So there is such a man in a land so distant." Nobunaga looked at Yasuke and said, "You may give the old man a proper burial here, and from this day forward, you shall serve as one of my retainers. From now on, your name shall be Yasuke." Then, turning to the young page standing beside him, he added, "I leave him in your care." With those words, Nobunaga turned and disappeared into the depths of the residence. Yasuke stood there in stunned silence, but Valignano gestured for him to stand up. Yasuke was given a samurai's attire and entrusted with a sword. At last, he had truly become a samurai. Valignano: "To survive in this country, we do not always have the luxury of choosing our own path. You are no longer under my care. You have become a samurai. From this day forward, you stand not as my servant, but as my friend." Yasuke was puzzled when people said he and Valignano had become friends. But after laying the old man to rest, he felt he had no unfinished business. Yasuke was given the new name Yasuke and became a samurai in the service of Oda Nobunaga. Valignano introduced a young page to Yasuke and said, "From now on, you will follow this boy's instructions." The boy's name was Ranmaru. Ranmaru said, "Before you can become a warrior under Lord Oda, you must first master the art of combat. You will begin your training at once." From that day on, Yasuke began his training with the bow. Japanese bows had an effective range of about 50 meters. Since he was already familiar with archery, he mastered it quickly. Next came the spear. In Japan, spears were not thrown. Instead, they were used for thrusting and sweeping attacks. Because they were mid-range weapons, mastering them required extensive training. The last weapon was the sword. It is a traditional Japanese weapon used in close combat, and was told that mastering it would take years. For Yasuke, however, the training reminded him of hunting in Africa, and he found it enjoyable. One day, after spending countless days immersed in relentless training, Yasuke was chosen to spar before Nobunaga. When Yasuke arrived at the training ground, he was taken aback to find that his opponent was only a boy. But he had no time to dwell on it. He believed that Nobunaga was testing him. Yasuke had decided to give it everything he had to show the results of all his training. The match began, and the two exchanged fierce blows with their wooden swords. Then Yasuke swung his bakken with all his strength, shattering the boy's wooden sword into countless pieces. A roar of astonishment erupted from the crowd. Believing he had won, Yasuke let his guard down for a split second. The boy seized the opportunity without hesitation, leaped into the air, and delivered a powerful kick to the back of Yasuke's head. The match was over in an instant. The boy, seeing Yasuke had been knocked unconscious, knelt in seiza and quietly bowed to Nobunaga. Nobunaga scoffed. "Fool! You let your guard down." Ranmaru replied, "At the very least, he seems to possess great physical strength. Very well. Take him to one of the battlefields. Perhaps he'll grow from the experience and reward Nobumasa for his efforts." With that, Nobunaga turned and walked away. After the bitter defeat in the previous match, Yasuke burned with determination to redeem himself in the next battle. Ranmaru said, "This is your chance to make a comeback. I pray for your victory." Looking concerned, Valignano added, "This time, it is a real battlefield. Please be extremely careful." He made the sign of the cross as he watched Yasuke depart. For the first time in his life, Yasuke was on his way to the battlefield.